Coming up, I'm going to share 4 phrases that mentally strong people just never use. And then another phrase. Oh, it's called bed rotting. What is it? Who's doing it? Does it actually help us? Welcome to the Ken Coleman Show, where we help you win at work. Thrilled to have you with us. All right, we're going to talk about mental toughness today. And we're going to look at it through the lens of some easy excuses that we make for ourselves. And when we make these excuses, we say things like I'm about to say, right? So we're going to have some fun with some 4 phrases, just as a sample of where we all fall into this. And it's a form of excuse making. So let's have some fun, shall we? So here we go. 4 phrases that mentally strong people never use, and essentially what's behind it, okay? So we're going to have some fun with it. The first one is inspired by Lady Gaga and her hit song, Baby, I Was Born This Way. And Kelly is in the booth singing that now to the chagrin of everybody in there with her. Hopefully it was on key. Baby, I was born this way. In other words, hey, I am who I am. Popeye, one of my favorite cartoon characters of all time, used to have a version of this. I am what I am. Right? You know, we hear this, it is what it is. You know, the idea here is this is who I am, deal with it. There's no responsibility here in this statement. There's no mental toughness. This is actually mental weakness. It is complacency. It is settling. Instead of owning what's going on and deciding to grow. It's what it is. It's an excuse. It's, you know what? I actually heard a story recently about a leader who was fired. And just before that person was fired, this is testimony somebody gave me. Just before that person was fired, this leader looked at their leader and said, this is how I am. I'm too old to change. This is just the way it is. Wowzers. What? What a stunning lack of humility. Just, I am who I am. This is it. You're going to have to adjust to me. I'm not going to take any responsibility for my actions. I'm not going to take any responsibility for growth. I'm just settling. I'm just going, sorry, too late. Not going to do the work. It is what it is. I am who I am. Baby, I was born this way. And by the way, that song, I'm not picking on Lady Gaga, but that song, you know, promotes this kind of thinking. Yep. This is what it is. This is who I am. Deal with it. Deal with it. No, this is awful. This will absolutely guarantee that you remain stuck emotionally, mentally, professionally, relationally, if you just have this kind of attitude. Second phrase that mentally strong people never use. Why is this happening? Now, I pointed out at the beginning of this that we all say these things and have said these things in moments of weakness, but I'm talking about, this is not something we say and we believe. It's not something we stay with if we're mentally strong. In other words, in a moment of weakness when something bad has happened and you have this thought, and I've had this thought, and you say something like, why has this happened to me? In that moment, you are trying to wrestle with it. But instead of wrestling with it and getting some perspective and understanding what you can about the why, and to the extent that you don't know why and it's just happening to you, you decide to go, you know what, I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to handle it. I'm going to move on. We stay in this why, this loop, this mental loop. And this is where we become victim thinkers. Victim thinkers. It's just, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening? It's okay to wonder why. It is not okay to stay in a unresolved state. Even when you don't know the why, resolve to go, I don't know the why, but I can tell you this, I know the now, and the now is here. And now I've got to deal with the now, and I've got to move forward. So this is victim thinking. Instead of going, it's not the why that we need to soak in, it's the what next? What now? If we're constantly wrestling with the why, we'll never be able to focus on what now, what next. Here's one of my favorites that I experience all the time with my teenagers. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what the inflection is. When someone says, I don't care, they care. You actually care too much. If you are playing this card of, I don't care, you're walking around the office and you're acting detached, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. Yes, you do. I don't care is actually, I give up. I don't want to engage with my emotions. I don't want to engage with my thoughts. I don't want to engage with my actions. I don't care is I'm raising the white flag, and in this moment, I'm surrendering. Because when a teenager says, and the teenager's all hung up on something, and you're wrestling with it, and they go, I don't care. They care. And when I say I don't care, I care. You care too much. You care too much. So that's the third one. The fourth one is, this can't fail. Failure, we can't do it. This has got to work. Do you feel the tension in that statement? Mentally strong people don't say that. Because I would tell you what mentally strong people know, and it's one of the reasons they're mentally strong, is that it's probably going to fail on some level. By the way, any product, any business, any successful sports team, I could go on and on and on, will have moments of failure that is not final. You could take a football team, an NFL team. Let's take an NFL team that wins 14, 15 games, and they win a championship. I promise you, there was failure in that season. If nothing else, if we just look at the 2 games, 3 games, they lost. They won a lot. Very successful. In spite of, or watch this, as a result of failure. So I tell you what, mentally strong people, they don't say things like, oh, it's gotta work. No, it's like, hey, we're going to do everything we can in our power to make it work. We will adjust. We will pivot. We will learn. We will grow. And so in other words, mentally strong people are future thinkers. Mentally weak people are failure and fear thinkers. They're just so afraid. So I would say, mentally, and again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying, if you aren't mentally strong, it's because we walk through these as 4 examples. But one of the reasons is you just are always focused on the fear aspect of moving forward. But mentally strong people go, look, there's some crap that's probably going to happen along the way. It is going to scare me to death. I will deal with it when it happens. But I hate getting scared. I don't know if I'm one of the jumpiest people you've ever met in your life. There's a guy here at the office. He's a leader, Jeremy Breland. We've known each other for 30 plus years. Guy likes to jump out from behind places. I'll be at my desk working, Bob. He'll come up behind me and go, and I just practically come out of my skin. You're enjoying this too much, Nathan. But I'm a very confessed jumpy guy. Jumpy. Don't like it. Do not like it. But I was talking to Jeremy about that one time, and he said, and this example just popped in my mind. He goes, you know what's funny about you? He goes, the reason it's so hilarious is because you're never prepared for it. Not that any of us are, but he's like, you're so not prepared for it. He goes, you would think at this point, as much as I've done this to you, that you'd have one eye open. And I'm never prepared for it. You know why? Because I'm not a fearful thinker. I don't default to fear. I default to the future. I'm always thinking about the next. And one of the things that drives me crazy, by the way, is when I'm in a meeting, and the team will tell you this. I cannot stand when we're ideating and somebody starts telling me all the negative reasons why something may not work. Drives me nuts. We may get to that conclusion, but let's start with the potential that it could happen. I'm not a, Pollyanna positive guy. My gosh. What holds us back so much from being mentally tough are voices like this, and underneath all of this is fearful thinking, not future thinking. And there's a big difference. Learn how to do it and watch your growth accelerate. Hey folks, I want to tell you about Aiden. He started at Bethel Tech 2 weeks after graduating high school, and less than a year later, he's 19 and working as a full-stack software developer. He loved the idea of being able to work at his own pace, but what he really thought was cool was Bethel Tech's faith-based learning environment and being with classmates who had a similar worldview. Now, if this is you, or if you have a son or a daughter that's looking for the next step out of high school and they may be tech-minded, at least interested, you need to talk to Bethel Tech. Listen to this. Fortune Magazine named them as a top 10 best UX UI bootcamp for 2024. And right now, they're offering you 10% off because you listen and watch The Ken Coleman Show. They also allow you to pay cash, and I know you'll like that. Go to betheltech.net/Ken Coleman for details. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Hey, thanks for listening and watching. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and subscribe and share. If you're listening via your favorite podcast app, give us a 5-star review, a follow, and a share. We would appreciate that. Okay, so I love when the team brings me these fun articles, and boy, this is it. This is the headline. Bed rotting days are very tempting, but don't really help you feel rested. So I first saw it as bed wetting. It's not. Alex had to correct me and say, no, we're talking about bed rotting. I'm thinking to myself, if you're bed rotting, you might run the risk of bed wetting. What is bed rotting? Here we go. It is a trend of millennials and Gen Zers are taking advantage of on their off days or weekends by bed rotting. It involves spending the entire day under the comfort of their duvets while sleeping in, watching television, or mindlessly scrolling a device. Listen, my kids don't watch this show, so I really don't have anything to be worried about right here. But my boys will do this and have done it, and I don't get it. I don't get it. So I need to full disclosure on this article. Kelly, you're looking at me like you got something to say, so you may need to speak freely in just a moment. But I'm going to say this. This is very difficult for me to understand because I'm not wired this way. I couldn't do it. I'd go stir crazy. Alex, I can't even spend more than about an hour on the beach lying in one position. Like with a book, like an hour's my max. I got to get up, get in the water, go talk to somebody, meet a stranger. I just can't do it. And so I don't understand this. Kelly, I feel like you want to say something. You have a different point of view on this bed rotting business.
Well, I at least moved to the couch. I won't stay in my room all day. I don't have a TV in my room for that reason, or else I probably would.
Okay.
But then me and my roommate will watch TV for, binge something for a couple of hours, go for a walk, come back, and binge another few hours.
Okay, but see, you aren't actually bed rotting here because of the very act of, A, you got out of your room, B, you went for a walk. But what bed rotting is being described, and I get the lazy day. By the way, I love a lazy, rainy day, but not laying in the bed all day and not moving. And by the way, here's the facts. Samantha Boardman, a psychiatrist and clinical instructor at Weill Cornell Medical College, says that this does more harm than good. That you actually don't feel better, and if anything, you feel more drained. Now, this is the actual bed rotting. So I appreciate Kelly trying to be empathetic to everybody, but she wasn't. What she's describing is not actually this. You went for a walk. Right? Now, why is this disruptive? Or why is this not good? It disrupts your circadian rhythm. Because your natural alarm clock is what your circadian rhythm is. And it helps you, your body basically telling you when to sleep, when to get up. And so if you have a rot day where you're just sleeping longer than normal, it throws everything off. You're actually more groggy and you're not more refreshed. Too much sleep is also associated with many health issues, including heart disease. Heart disease, obesity, and depression. This according to John Hopkins Medicine. Research shows that extended time staring at your phone or TV screen can cause eye strain, sleep disturbance, and poor mental health. So what's interesting is the idea of just laying in your bed all day long actually ends up harming you. And it's unhealthy. Now, how do you reconcile this with you've had a bad day the day before, maybe some type of big breakup, and you don't want to leave your room? All right, what you're attempting to do is just kind of emotionally recover and you're trying to retreat. And I think that can be healthy. Okay. But to Kelly's example, she actually went on a walk. All right. That's a good thing. There was some light exercise, and this actual psychiatrist says light exercise, low, kind of not a high stress workout, but just some type of movement. Seeing the sun, for heaven's sakes, is actually good. Some type of relaxing activity, but the key word there is activity, is helpful. Research shows that nature walks are effective in promoting mental health and well-being. A 40-minute walk in nature helps people feel more restored and focused than a 40-minute walk in an urban area. So, Kelly, I guess you probably didn't do a nature walk in your little lazy day. It was just walking around the neighborhood, yeah.
Just a neighborhood walk.
Okay, well, it's not great, but it's better. But in all honesty, do you not get sick of watching TV after a while? Or you're okay with that? You're just like, well, I had a little mental break and now we're back and we're binge watching again.
I would allow myself one of those days like once a quarter, I would say.
And do you feel refreshed after said day?
No.
Exactly. You're exhausted. All right, great. I love it. Thank you. The recommendation from Samantha Boardman, the psychiatrist, is to push yourself to do something productive, even if it's only for a few minutes. And so this is fascinating. I was thinking about this. Okay. If you are in a really tough emotional situation, instead of laying in bed all day long and, just TV, just the phone, under the covers, just, look, get up and do something productive as a household task. But I'm going a different direction today. This is my recommendation. I'm not an expert. So I'm going to give you a real life example of what works for me. Because listen, here's why we're talking about this. We have to acknowledge there's a lot of stress and burnout and bad crap happening to people who are working. That's why we're having fun with this. So the response is not this. This is not the right healthy response. And I'm going to tell you what works for me. Okay? I believe in the power of community-based hobbies. So I recently had it wasn't that long ago, I had a not great day at work. I had a meeting that messed with my head. And I'll just leave it at that. And I was not in good headspace. I was not depressed. I don't want to make this a bigger deal, but I'm just being honest. I was really overanalyzing. I was thinking. I was frustrated. I was not in a good place, and it was towards the end of the day. So here we go. So I'm driving home. I'm chewing on it, thinking about it, not in a good space, but trying not to get angry. So the good news, I didn't get angry, and here's why. I didn't get depressed. Here's why. My pickleball guys. It just happened, Alex, that it was on a pickleball night. My weekly game. So I show up, by the way, still chewing on it, still in my head about it, not in a great headspace. Show up, and because we got a routine, my brain starts to adjust to the routine, and I see all these guys that I see once a week, and they don't know my problem. They don't need to know my problem. They're just treating me like normal. In fact, it was funny. I had debuted a headband because I got the guys call this, my pickleball guys call this the lettuce. They call my longer hair the lettuce. They go, oh, you're growing the lettuce out. That's what they call it. I don't know. Kelly hates it. It's kind of funny. And so this hair is still up with the product right now, but when the pickleball starts happening, it gets sweaty and wild. And then I've been wearing hats, and Nathan, I don't like to wear a hat necessarily. So I went ahead and got the headbands, and I kind of got the Roger Federer thing going on. Look, not the pickleball quality, just the head. You know what? They started having fun with me about it. Little fun teasing, and guess what happened? Emotionally, I start to think about other things. I'm laughing. I don't mind it. These guys are for me. It's just gentle teasing or whatever. We start playing. I'm focused on the game, Bob. I'm focused on the pickleball, and I'm exerting physical and mental energy towards a game. And we played for 3 hours. And Alex, I want you to know that after 3 hours of pickleball, my mind, my heart were in a much better place. And I'm just saying, you need something like that. I've got another hobby that if I'm just not in a great place and I can get a quick poker game together, let me tell you something, good for the soul. Even if I don't win a lot of money that night, the camaraderie, the refocus of the brain. So all I'm saying is this. I am a proponent of go do something that you have fun with. And it may not be the greatest day of your life, and it's probably not going to solve the problem. But what it does is it resets you, and you stay mentally active on something else. You stay physically active on something else. And let me tell you what happens. The body, the brain, they're so resilient, and they will adjust. So don't lay in bed all day. Go do something fun that's physical in nature or mentally engaging. And I think you'll snap back really quick. Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Time to coach some folks up. Seth is going to join us now in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Seth, how can I help today?
Hey, Ken.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. And yourself?
I cannot complain. What's going on?
That's awesome. So I was on your show, I think it was back in 2016 or 2017, and I had a business. I ended up selling the business, and I ended up moving to Lancaster, Pennsylvania about 3 years ago. But I feel like I have this career struggle of not just finding my sweet spot and just being content to work the same job for 5 or 10 or 15 years. I don't know if I just can't find my sweet spot or if I'm just too hyper. I don't know what it is, and I need help to sort through that.
Well, I think one thing you should probably start pulling out of your analysis is these timelines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I would never coach anybody to be thinking in terms of 5, 10, and 15 years as it relates to how long I'm in a role. I think that takes care of itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it could.
I wouldn't, my point is I would never go, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this for 10 years. No, I think that timeline, through a variety of extenuating circumstances, the timeline takes care of itself. Which is why I teach the methodology. If you use what you do best, your talent, to do work you love, your passion, to produce results you care deeply about, mission, that moves with you. And so it's an indicator of, well, I know the kind of work that I need to be doing. And so any opportunity, any pivot, anything like that runs through that filter. That has nothing to do with timeline. And I think that in some way gives me some clues as to what's going on. I think you get bored.
No, really? Yeah, I get bored.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had an outside sales job for 2 years.
Yeah.
I was growing. I was excelling in that role. I liked the flexibility of the role. I liked having the company truck, but, only working 40 hours a week it just got boring, and the boring of the routine of going and seeing the same customers, and you're not always selling to them.
Yeah.
I just was bored. So a year ago, I switched jobs, went to another role, to try to help a guy build a business. And that's kind of been a disappointment because he's like, well, you're not quite the right guy. And, and now I'm disappointed. He's kind of pushed me to the side, pushed me into, well, you manage this department over here and take care of this.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's like, well, it's not my sweet spot.
No.
So
I think in this case, I think in this case, you just went for opportunity. And I don't think you thought through the methodology that I taught you and that we've talked through before. I think you just went, ooh, new. And listen, I'm not saying that in any way to criticize you. I'm just saying I think what happened here is that. Is that true? Now that you look at it, you just went for the new and you didn't go, was it a good fit?
Yeah, I think that was part of it. I think I was just discontent and bored, and so I just moved on to something else.
Right.
And
we don't move on. We don't just move on for the sake of moving on. We move forward. I think that's the difference.
Gotcha.
We want to move forward on the path. We want to move up the mountain. And I think the thing for you is the timeline I do want you thinking about is 25, 30 years from now. How old are you?
38. I'm 38 years old.
All right. I think you need to look 25 years from now, 20, 25 years from now and go, based on who I am, because you know how you're wired. You know what you're good at, you know what you love to do, and you know what motivates you, yes or no?
Yeah, I feel like I know what motivates me. Yeah.
You do. You do. I think you need to be looking at what's the mountaintop, what are some mountaintops? Let's not limit it to one, especially for a guy like you. Okay. So for instance, let me try to illustrate this. If I go back in my life 20 years ago, okay, mountaintops that I was identifying: author, speaker, potential politician, television show. Like these were mountains that I allowed my heart to identify that I'd go, that would be fun to scale. Does it make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, but now all of those things I just mentioned, those are all things that I am wired to do. Does not mean that those are the things I'm going to do, but those are options of things that I am wired to do. And then it's the discovery process, of, okay, of all these things, what do I feel is right for me? And you can pivot. And I just think this boredom thing for you is actually a strength. And I think what you've got to start to figure out is I'm always allowing boredom to push me to jump and hop. And you're kind of like a frog, hopping here, hopping there, all this kind of stuff. And to me, it feels a little not so strategic. It's just kind of like, woo, I'll hop over here and woo, that was fun. And now I'm bored. I'm going to hop to the next thing that excites me. And I think there's a little bit of an adrenaline thing you've got going on. And I think you got to channel that. And I think you've got to channel that into something that's really big. That's going to take you a while to climb. And in doing so, the climb itself is what you start to really get jazzed by because you see progress.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to speak almost in metaphors to see if I'm figuring you out. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, some of that's what's going on. Some of it's of what I've been accused of.
You've been accused of? What have you been accused of?
Well, accused of just being that guy that just hops. Hops from one job to the next because it's exciting. Right.
So we need to get to the bottom of that. What do you think? What do you think is at the real bottom? This is a bit of counseling now. What do you think is at the bottom of this like FOMO, fear of missing out, or this adrenaline chasing? What do you think is there? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm trying to see if we can identify it. What do you think it is?
Well, one thing in processing and thinking through it is like right when I was going to turn from 18 years old my family moved from the state that I grew up in. I kind of had a career path picked out, which we don't know what we're doing when we're 18, but I thought I did. And we moved and completely moved to a different state, moved to a different culture. And then I was like, well, now what am I going to do? And I had to, career-wise and
what was the thing,
values-wise.
What was the thing you picked out at 18? Because I would not minimize that. Not yet.
Yeah.
What was it?
Well, I wanted to go into, forestry, into logging, excavation, going out and cutting down trees every day. And
what was it about that? What was it about that appealed to you at 18?
It was it was the career path of my dad, but I don't think that was all of it. It was the idea of being out in the forest every day, out and about out in nature. It was a way of life. It was the way I grew up.
But here's the question. Do you love that? Do you feel a sense of flow where just you're happy doing that kind of thing, even now?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes naturally to me.
I know. Do you know why it comes
into it?
You know why it comes naturally to you?
Because I like to do it. It's a lot of fun.
But you're also good at that stuff too, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I jump on a heavy piece of equipment, and it just all comes naturally,
My friend, we just figured it out. You know what's funny to me? At 18 years of age, you wanted to go into something. You said excavation and digging. I think that's the deal. It's such a great metaphor for what we've been talking about, Seth.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing where you're just an epic curiosity guy, and that's that digging. And it engages your brain. So when you're on a machine, you're moving this dirt from here to there and trying to figure out how to pull this tree up or dig it. That actually keeps you engaged.
Yeah, it does, because then you also have a picture in your mind of, when this site is cleared out, or, we're going to have this all ready to put a basement in or foundation in or whatever. And then we're going to come back after the basement's in and we're going to lay the final grade. And you can actually... Right. I can see that picture in my mind.
I know, it's a puzzle.
As I'm moving one scoop
It's a puzzle.
Of dirt,
it's a puzzle, isn't it? It's a puzzle. You know what's exciting about this? Every day, even though you're in work boots and you got some dirt on your fingernails, or you're on a machine one day down with your hands the next, you know what's fun about that for you? It's something new every day. It ain't the same daggum sales pitch. It ain't the same daggum product. It's a new puzzle to solve. Can I tell you something? The research shows that many people return to a vision, a fantasy that they had when they were 9, 10, 11, 12 years of age. You are not too young at the age of 18, certainly then, to know what it is you want to do with your life. And in this case, I would not minimize it because your dad did it. You grow up. In this case, what we have just talked through reveals to me with absolute clarity that that's the kind of work you're wired to do. And you will not be bored a day in your life if you're doing that kind of work. You'll show up.
I don't think so.
I know so. Yeah. So, Seth, I think we know what we need to do. We need to, because now we're an adult, and no one's going to move you anymore. Now we go back, and we had the path picked out, and life changed on you, and you thought you had to let it go. And I'm telling you, don't let it go. Go grab it. Go grab it and go do it.
Okay, awesome.
My man. I'm actually a little fired up.
Yeah, I'm fired up about it too, because that's kind of what everything's been lining up to. I actually just had a job offer today, and they're like, okay, we can pay you this much to do this role or this much to do this role for the same company.
What's the role?
And one job is in excavation, jumping in an excavator or bulldozer and going out and pushing dirt. The other job is a truck driving operator job to haul around explosives and blow stuff up every day.
Bro, I would say yes to both. Say, is there any way I can do both?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's
do they pay you what you need? Really do these jobs pay you what you need to make?
Well, see, that's the piece that I'm trying to sort out yet. One is $29 an hour. The truck driver job is like $31 an hour. So how do you make the decision between $3 an hour?
You don't. It's not about $3 an hour. It's about how much juice I have per hour doing this work. Which one of those is more exciting to you?
My heart tells me that the excavation dozer roll is more.
Without question. Without question. Your heart and my head are saying the same thing. Done. Done. Go. We're done with this call. We're done with this show. We did our own excavating, and we found the treasure, my friend. Go be you.
Thanks for listening to The Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.